Welcome to the Diplomat. My name is Stephen Taylor. Thank you very much for joining us today. And please interact with the show at Stephen Taylor Essays, where you can find me on my social media. And today, very honored to have a very beautiful and young lady, the ambassador of the Ukraine, Ambassador Abravitova. No, man. Oh my goodness. How do we say your name and surname? You must help me out. We need to learn from one another, right?
Exactly. So, Liubov Abravitova.
Wow. Okay. And that in English means?
My name means love. Yes.
Oh, wow. Really? So I can call you Love then. How are you, my love?
If it's easier for you, welcome.
So, wow. The ambassador to the Ukraine. Firstly, tell us about you in a bit more detail. You were obviously born in the Ukraine. Tell us about you, where you were born and growing up.
Okay. So first of all, let us start that starting from 1991, the Ukraine called not the Ukraine anymore, but just Ukraine without the, because it used to be the Ukraine when it was the part of the USSR. So today we call it Ukraine, and I would like to use this opportunity to stress on that, because a lot of people are still confused about the proper name of the country.
Yes.
So I am ambassador just recently here, but I've been here already for 3 years. Was appointed by my government as a counselor on political issues.
Yes.
But then it happened that I became chargé d'affaires, which is actually the acting ambassador. So it happened that I've been almost for 2 years to have an acting ambassador. And then recently on the 14th of April this year, the president of Ukraine decided to appoint me as the ambassador to South Africa.
Wow.
So I was born in USSR, in Moldova, in small city Benderi. But as my father was a military man, he was a tankist, we had to travel a lot. So I spent part of my childhood in Slovakia, and then I was studied in Odessa, which is the big port city on the Black Sea in Ukraine. I graduated from the University of International Relations there. So after the graduation, my career started. I am a career diplomat.
Sure. So only recently you were what did the president give you a call and say, we'd like you to be the ambassador in South Africa, or how does it work?
Well, the proposal usually comes from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
They give an advice, a note, a written advice to the president, and then the presidency is considering if this candidature is acceptable. Because unless you are ambassador, you are on diplomatic career. As soon as you're ambassador, you're actually the political appointee. That's correct, how it works.
That's correct. So, sure. So USSR, when did Ukraine become Ukraine that we know today? When did it become the country that we know today?
It was in 1991. So that means that both our countries being and having a long history, they can be considered also very young ones, as we are building the new country just recently. But that's interesting that, for example, in 1945, Ukraine, as the part of USSR, but particularly Ukraine, was one of the founders of the United Nations. Not many people know about this.
Wow, wow. I didn't know that.
If you read the Charter of the United Nations, you will find the signature of Ukraine there.
Sure. That's
and
amazing.
We are very proud of it. Now, when you are the members of United Nations Security Council, just 2 years before, we also we had the non-permanent seat in the UN Security Council.
Sure.
So we both have a very similar experience in that.
Yes. But I must say that your president is very young for a president. And very interesting story that your president was an actor and actually played the role of a president, and now actually was voted in as the president. That is an interesting story in itself, right? It kind of reminds you of the USA, Ronald Reagan kind of thing, right?
Well, I think that you are trying, meantime, say that the young president is appointing young ambassadors.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Which is fairly true. We've got a lot of new faces in our political life now. We've got many young and new faces in governmental sector. The gender policy improved dramatically. So a lot of progress is happening.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of positive things around this.
No, yes, we're going to get to that. So tell us about your role in South Africa as the ambassador. What is your role? What are you allowed to do and what are you not allowed to do?
Well, I think that it's like every ambassador. You have to understand that we have been appointed by our government, by our president, to represent all the country in all the sectors of bilateral cooperation. There are no restrictions. Everything is classified by the international law, and we are following that rules. So it's easier to say that you can expect ambassador to do everything, starting from boosting bilateral trade and economy and finishing with culture, tourism, everything. So you just, in my case, I have that privilege, and my country probably also, that I have already experienced in the region. I know Africa very well, and I know South Africa. I feel what are the scopes of interest, the layers of our interest between the countries. So I can advise to my government, and usually the ambassador is the person, the focal point to advise to the presidency, to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, what steps must be undertaken to bring two countries closer. And today the world is becoming very global.
Yes.
So we really, both sides are looking closer to each other now. We have to invent or establish new ways of communication, as we are doing now with you.
Yes.
Everything went through internet, but that brings people closer, that brings nations closer.
That's true. So tell me, what is the relationship between South Africa and the Ukraine like? Is there trade deals that are happening? How is the relationship between the two countries?
Well, first of all, let me start from the political relationship. We established our diplomatic relationship in March 1992. We opened, meantime, our embassies. Now the South Africa is represented by the ambassador of South Africa in Ukraine. Moreover, there is an honorary consul of South Africa in Odessa.
Oh, wow.
Then here we have the ambassador now, and we are working on establishing the honorary consulate in Cape Town. Okay. We had a number of bilateral visits. In 2000, we established quite a big legislation base on bilateral agreements. It's more than 20 agreements. in all the spheres of cooperation, starting from agriculture, finishing cooperation in maritime sector.
Sure. Okay.
We are trading. We are trading, even though, you know, our trade turnover fell down dramatically for the last 5 years, but
Yes.
there is a reason behind this. For last year, our trade was $132 million only. While if you look at South African statistics, your trade turnover with all the countries of the world is 176, I guess, billion of dollars. So the numbers are very modest, but
Yes.
we are working to improve that now.
And for somebody that doesn't know about the Ukraine, tell us a bit more details about the country itself, the population, the currency, and also the languages that are spoken in the Ukraine.
Very good question. Usually when I start presentation of my country, I say Ukraine is the biggest country in Europe.
Oh, wow.
And then people say, wow, yes, exactly.
Yes.
Not many people really, not really many people knows about this, but it's even bigger than France. Our territory is 603,000 square kilometers.
Wow.
Which is twice small than South Africa, but
Yes.
still, yes, in scopes of Europe, we are big. We are 54 million people, population.
Which is similar to South Africa.
Yeah. I think you've got 62
Yes.
as of recent numbers.
Yes.
So the interesting thing, when you call that South Africa is the rainbow nation, considering the multicultural population, multi-linguistic population, I can say the same about Ukraine, and to put this parallel, because we have at least 15 minorities living in Ukraine, which is Ukrainian. Meantime, this
So I think the last thing that you spoke about was the trade relation, and then we went into the population and more details about the Ukraine. So then you said 62 million, and then do you want to carry on from there?
all right. So
Okay.
what I need to say is that, first of all, as I told you, Ukraine is the biggest country in the Europe. And it has a big population of 40, well, according to the latest estimation, it's lower than, but what I have as a data is 47 million. We are cultural nation as South Africa. We have at least 15 minorities living on the territory of Ukraine. They are Ukrainians, but they speak different languages, and it very much depends on the borders of Ukraine. Those people who live in Lviv, for example, closer to Poland, they most probably speak Polish language. We've got people who speak Moldovan language, for example, and they have opportunity to study their language at school, not as the primary language, but as a second language. The only language official is the Ukrainian, obviously. So the population is very diverse in terms of religion also.
Okay.
So it's very all-inclusive and very peaceful nation, what I can say. And if you want to know better about Ukraine, and if you want to get more involved and interested, you have to realize that Ukraine historically has a lot of architectural monuments dated from 9th or 11th century, which are still as they were at that time.
Sure.
So Ukraine was established in 9th century. Yes. So this is really the place of attraction for those people who like history.
Yes. And what are
And
some
it
of...
went through. Yes.
Oh, sorry. No, I'll let you finish.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I wanted to ask, for somebody, when things do eventually get back to normal, somebody wanting to visit Ukraine as a tourist, what are some of the places that they would want to experience?
You know, we've got, as you have here, we've got ocean, we have 2 seas, Azov Sea and Black Sea. We've got mountains, we've got forests. So it very much depends on what people want to see. We have huge number of historical castles of medieval age.
Oh, wow.
So people who want to find something interesting, they definitely will find that. We have wine production in Ukraine. So for those wine lovers of South Africa, probably that would be also interesting to visit those parts of the world, because there are some very rare grapes that we have in Ukraine and no one has in other world. So we can find, as well as for Ukrainians in South Africa, a lot of things of interest.
And Nelson Mandela, I know that it's Mandela month, and Nelson Mandela is not only known in South Africa, but known around the world. And I think during this time, as you rightly mentioned before we spoke, when we spoke in the week, that we need some positivity during this time. We need to kind of unite more and come together and figuratively hold hands, because you can't physically do that. How much of a role did what role did Nelson Mandela play in the Ukraine? Is he liked there as well?
Ukrainians know Mandela very well. I will surprise you that in Kiev we have a big building, the multi-story building, where the how you call it, mural of Mandela is painted.
Wow!
And recently in Cape Town, if I am not mistaken, on Long Street, you will find the lighthouse, Ukrainian Crimean lighthouse, that we recently painted as a mural on one of the walls, also a multi-story building. Wow. So we are doing a lot of interesting cultural projects.
Okay, and tell us about Mandela Day, Mandela Month, what it means to you, and the legacy of Mandela and keeping that alive. Being in the country, experiencing some of the things and looking back at some of South Africa's history. Why is it important for us to have Mandela Day, Mandela Month, not only here in South Africa, but around the world? What makes this so important?
Recently, my son in the school here, in the local school, was telling me the poem about Let's Day Every Day a Mandela Day.
Yes.
And I was really touched, because that's something how we can make our world better place to live, to help others, to see the needs of others, not to ignore them. We are doing a lot of projects, not only for Mandela week, months. We're doing a lot of projects here at the embassy for South Africans to show our involvement in all the processes that are happening now. But also we are in a close cooperation with the South African embassy in Ukraine when we are doing that. So in Ukraine, people are also getting involved in Mandela Day. On this particular 17th of July, we are going as the embassy to donate to some schools with kids from unprivileged families, some things in terms of this COVID pandemic, that to help to prevent the spread of this disease at schools.
Yes.
sanitizers and masks, etc. But with the embassy staff, we are going to cook our traditional food and to deliver it to some places where people are in need of food here.
What is the traditional food of the Ukraine? You must tell me. You didn't tell me that.
So it's quite a number, but the most prominent probably it's borscht, which is the beetroot soup.
Oh.
And vareniki, which is kind of dumplings with different fillings inside. By the way, do you know that in Cape Town, only in Cape Town, in general, in South Africa, we have the Ukrainian Association of South Africa, which is the diaspora organization of Ukraine, which is quite big. And members are not only Ukrainians, but also South Africans who love Ukrainian food.
Oh, really? Well, when you're in Cape Town again, then when you're in Cape Town again, you can show me some of the food. We can go and have some food, Ukrainian food.
There is a Ukrainian bakery in Cape Town.
Oh.
I will provide you with the place where it's located, but you can find it. And they cook also not only for bakery, but also for dumplings and some traditional food. But coming back to the Association of Ukrainians in South Africa, this is a really active and prominent organization, which is led by very active Ukrainians who want to bring Ukrainian culture and knowledge about Ukraine to South African people. They've been organizing Ukrainian festivals in Cape Town already for 3 years. Wow. So if this year we don't need to postpone it, then I hope you will be able to attend.
Absolutely.
Last year, the festival received more than 6,000 people.
Sure.
Yeah, so it was very popular.
That I see. Wow. No,
I can tell you a lot of stories, positive stories that probably you might not know about. Yes. How close Ukraine and South Africa are, not in terms of proximity, but in terms of culture and history.
Yes.
Did you ever heard about Mazeppa Bay in South Africa?
Did I hear about what?
Mazeppa Bay.
No.
Well, there is a Mazeppa Bay somewhere not far from East London. And Mazeppa was the name of one of famous Ukrainian heroes. He became very famous after one prominent writer of that century wrote a poem which became very popular, and people became to name vessels, for example, by his name.
Wow.
And this vessel, this ship, Mazeppa, it sank at that territory. That's why the bay is called Mazeppa Bay.
Oh, wow. I must go see that. I must go have a look. That is amazing. You've done your homework.
No, we know a lot about that. And the poem about Mazeppa was written by Byron, and it was in 1819. So you see, and when the name became very used, probably there were not connection that this is something Ukrainian. But then we discovered, but look, Mazeppa Bay. And as far as I know, even in Durban, there is a Mazeppa Street.
Sure. So we are coming to the end, almost the end of our conversation, and we have to do it again because I've enjoyed our conversation immensely. So thank you very much, my love. I must call you love.
It's reciprocal.
What I want to ask you though is, before we go, being a woman, and I know that in women in society, being in a leadership role like yourself, and working your way up, what advice would you give to other women looking up to you and saying, I want to be like her? what would you say to them?
You know, I never looked at being a leader for a woman or for a man. I think that you don't think about that when you feel equality. I would advise to ladies not to start the career or to work from the point of gender at all.
Yes.
If you are professional, you will be able to work in any environment independently of whom you are surrounded, men or women. And sometimes I feel even a little bit frustrated about how, because this issue is very discussable today,
Yes.
how different approach in different countries. I see a huge progress that South Africans are doing now to improve the situation with gender inequality, and I'm very proud of what has been done. I think we in Ukraine also realized the problem, because we both in Ukraine and South Africa appeared at the same problem after starting our new history.
Yes.
So my advice will be don't start to think about your career from the point that you are a woman or man. Start to build yourself as a professional.
I like that. On that note, the best ambassador in the world with the greatest name, Ambassador Love. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you so much. And you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So there we go, another episode of The Diplomat. Make sure that you are interacting with the show at Stephen Taylor SA on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you to the ambassador of Ukraine. Catch us again next week, same time, same place. God bless.